Environmental uncertainty. So today we are going to cover this part 3 of external environment to the organization, environmental uncertainty. So what is the environmental uncertainty? The environmental uncertainty refers to the unpredictability in an organization's external environment, make it difficult to foresee and plan for the future event. That means you cannot predict, it's uncertain. This uncertainty arises from the lack of information, rapid changes, or complexity in the external environment. So, what will be the possible causes of environmental uncertainty? For example, the first cause is the technological changes. Technological changes, when we talk about, it's a rapid advancement or shift in technology that make a current product or process obsolete. For example, when we link with the technological changes, the emergence of UPI, okay, you can write there is an emergence of UPI, that is a unified payment interface, which drastically changed the payment landscape, forcing the traditional banks and financial institutions to innovate it quickly. So that falls under technological changes, which causes an environmental uncertainty. Next important cause is market dynamic. So changes in consumer preferences, competition, and market trend can create uncertainty. So, like a rise of e-commerce platforms, when we talk about like a Flipkart and Amazon, has like disrupted widely the traditional retail business, creating uncertainty, okay, for those retail businesses. Next is you can write is for example e-commerce platform, okay, e-commerce. Every example is given in the book, okay, you can refer from the book the example if you want. Next is the regulatory changes. So when we talk about the regulatory changes, that means a new laws. There are new laws, the policies or the regulation that can alter the business landscape, creating the uncertainty. For example, the implementation of GST, the biggest example in 2017, which replaced the multiple indirect taxes, creating a short-term uncertainty as business need to adjust with the new tax regime. And there are currently also there are some of the fields who are facing some like to meet these kind of regulatory changes and challenges. Next is the economic factor. Economic factor, how it can be a cause of environmental uncertainty, is the fluctuation in economic indicators, such as when we call a fluctuation in economic indicator, that is an inflation. There is a change in interest rate and economic cycle can impact the business environment. For example, when we talk about the economic factor that impacting the business, we can definitely recall the picture during the COVID-19. The economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic that created uncertainty for the business across the sector, leading to disruption in supply chains and changes in the consumer behavior also. Okay. So, for example, you can recall the COVID example, right? Next is the social and cultural shift. So, when we talk about the social and cultural shift, when see in case of an India, we can see there are diverse cultural landscape. It means there are social trends that can widely changing, impacting the consumer behavior and their strategies. So, change in the societal values, demographics, or cultural trend can also contribute to the environmental uncertainty. So the increasing focus on sustainability and eco-friendly product that has forced the company to adapt the product offerings to meet the new consumer expectations. Okay, so these are the possible causes of environmental uncertainty. You can often definitely go for other kind of causes also. This is the possible causes I would like to share with you. Now moving ahead with the types of uncertainty. What are the types, possible types of uncertainty? So when we talk about the complexity, okay, so it refers to a number of factors in the environment that an organization must consider while making the decisions. It involves the diversity and interconnectedness of these factors. For example, a company operating in a multiple international market faces higher complexity due to varying laws, culture, and economic condition. For example, in the Indian perspective, we can say HUL, Hindustan Unilever, which faces complexity as it operates in multiple states. Each has its own consumer behavior, their languages, and regulations. Okay? One second, please. Hindustan Unilever. Okay. Next is about the dynamism. Okay. So dynamism, what kind of uncertainty it defines? That the rate of change in environment that can be rapid. So particularly in the sectors like in technology, e-commerce and telecom, the dynamism is the rate at which the environmental changes very quickly change. So we say quick change in e-commerce, we see the technology, we see the telecom, we see. Okay, a dynamic environment is a one where changes occur rapidly and unpredictability. Okay, for example, the technology industry often, okay, so it's about the IT sector, often experience high dynamism due to the frequent innovations and shift in consumer preference. So when we talk about the, for example, in perspective of Indian telecom industry, there is a highly dynamic and there are frequently changes, and we have seen the technological advancement also. For example, entry of Reliance Jio again in 2016 that disrupted the industry, leading to price war among the different companies in the telecom industry, forcing competitors to innovate or exit the market. Clear? Next is money finance. So, what it means? It means that the availability of resources in the environment that support the organizational growth. A munificent environment is rich in resources, while a hostile environment is resource scarce. Hostile means they are facing challenges, right? So, when we talk about a booming economy with an abundant investment opportunities and consumer spendings, represent a munificent environment. So when we talk about, say, example of Indian IT sector, which is an historically enjoying a great environment with abundant talent, growing global demand, leading to rise of gains like in Infosys and TCS. So if we compare with the agriculture sector, which faces resource scarcity due to the unpredictable weather patterns and inadequate infrastructure. So we can see those two like natures. Okay, so these are the three types of uncertainty we discussed the with the example, and I also gave you the example linked to the Indian industry. Okay, so what will be the possible impact of environmental uncertainty on organizational decision making? So let's discuss the impact. Okay, increased risk. If there is an uncertainty, definitely we can see the risk. Environmental uncertainty make it challenging to predict outcomes, leading to the higher risk in decision making. For example, once again, for example, demonetization. So 2016, when the demonetization policy in 2016 created a significant uncertainty for the businesses, especially those dependent on cash transactions, leading to sudden drop in their sales and consumer spendings. Clear? What is us need for flexibility? When there is an uncertainty, there is a rise of need of flexibility. Like organization may need to adopt more flexible and adaptive strategies to respond to the changes. Okay, for example, the companies need to be flexible in their strategies. Again, the example of COVID. Okay, so the COVID-19 pandemic, many companies quickly shifted to online sales channel and remote working models to stay operational. And even if there are an organization who are working online, okay, they changes their mode during COVID-19 pandemic and they shifted to the online and they're doing good in online, they prefer not to go for online even today. Okay, like us. Resource allocation. So, when we talk about the resource allocation, uncertainty can complicate decisions about the resource allocation as a future needs are difficult to predict. Definitely, you cannot exactly predict the future requirement. So, environmental uncertainty can complicate the decision on where to allocate the resources. Let's talk about the example. For example, I'm taking about the automobile sector, right? So when we talk about the automobile company, for example, we have a Maruti Suzuki, which have a clearly allocate the resources between the traditional fuel vehicle and emerging electronic vehicles. So due to the uncertain consumer demand and regulatory supports, like they are completely facing the issues where to allocate the resources, right? Next is strategic planning. So when we talking about the strategic planning, which the greatest impact of environmental uncertainty, long-term planning become more complex as organization must account for the multiple potential future scenario. So when we talk about this definitely come to the picture of FMCG companies. Okay, so there is a FMCG company which have to plan for the different packaging and pricing strategies to cater the both rural area, urban market, and definitely different economic conditions, different sector. For example, in the North India, they have Again, focus on rural and urban, and then age specific also. And same way, if they're on the West India, South India, and then different strategy have to play. Clear? Next is organizational structure. So high uncertainty may lead to organizations to adopt more decentralized or agile structure to respond quickly to changes. So I hope you learn what is decentralization or agile structure. Still, if you have doubt, feel free to ask. So what will be the possible example? Startups. Yes, if you are quite active in learning, don't mug up, understand. The example will definitely come into your brain. So startups in India often operate with the flat organizational structure to remain agile and responsive to the market changes. Clear? So this is the possible impact of environmental uncertainty we have seen, which is impacting our organizational decision making. Moving ahead with the strategies. So, what will be the strategy an organization should take to manage environmental uncertainty? The first strategy is environmental scanning. So, regulatory monitoring the external factor like market trend, technological advancement, regulatory changes to stay informed and anticipate the changes. Okay, so company should regulatory monitor these external factors. Okay, for example, banks. So the Indian banks, they have to closely monitor the RBI policies to anticipate their regulatory changes that could impact their operations. So it's a big, quick example. Next is flexibility and adaptability. So developing flexible strategy, okay, and maintaining the ability to quickly adapt to the new circumstances, including modifying product, services, and process. For example, again during pandemic. Okay, so when we talk about the pandemic situation, restaurant chains, for example, Domino's, they adapted by enhancing their online delivery platforms and contactless delivery options. So you have seen there are a lot of changes during the pandemic, right? Okay, next is the scenario planning. What is scenario planning? Means creating multiple future scenario. We already going to cover in the our next sessions. Okay, and developing contingency plan for each scenario, allowing the organization to respond effectively to different possible future scenario. Okay, for example, large conglomerate like a Tata Group. Okay, like a Tata Group. Okay, so when we talk about the Tata Group, they have to plan for the various economic scenarios to ensure they can like regulate and run. Okay. Next is diversification. Good. Spreading risk by diversifying the product, market, and investment, reducing dependence on any single factor that could be subject to uncertainty. For example, again, the Reliance industry. So when we talk about the Reliance Industries, they diversified from petrochemicals into the telecommunication and retail sector, and they actually even expanding with time, reducing their dependence on the single sector only. Okay. Next, building strong relationship. So strengthening relationships with key stakeholder, including the supplier, customer, and regulator, to gain better insight and reduce the uncertainty. So, for example, again we take the example of say Tata Motors. Okay, so automakers like a Tata Motors, they should collaborate closely with their supplier to ensure the steady supply of their various components even during the disruptions. Last is the investing in innovation. That's the most important. Continuously investing in the research and development to stay ahead of the industry changes and reduce the impact of uncertainty. For example, Infosys. Okay, so Infosys has to do invest in R&D and innovations lab to stay in forefront of technological advancement in the IT industry because they have a close competitors, TCS, Infosys, everything is going from there. And very new companies also coming, very startups also coming. Okay, so they have to put something into R&D. Okay, so I hope these strategy help you to guide to understand that how to manage environmental uncertainty. Again, before moving ahead, it's my humble request, just slow down, understand each and every point, try to focus after listening my session. Just note down these headlines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So try to recall what you learned from me, try to connect with the example. Okay, if you understood, Read from the book multiple times, gain the good vocabulary, you will be win. Definitely you are going to win. Okay. So just don't go and jump for the memorization and mug up. You're definitely going to lose it. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Okay, so this is all about, we discussed about the environmental uncertainty. The word itself speak louder about its meaning. We learned about the types of uncertainty, causes of uncertainty, and how the strategies to manage this uncertainty, impact of this uncertainty, and more. So if you have some other points, do write and do put your expertise. If you want to discuss any of the example, write in the comment section, discuss with me. Again, before moving ahead, you can see the content is given in both the language, Hindi and English, to support all kind of learners. The maximum possible support I can give you, but keep participating, giving your inputs and reviews help us to help you a lot. So keep working hard. See you in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye bye and Jai Hind.